The girl who was supposed to be me showed up on a Tuesday, clinging to my mother's legs and sobbing that she was the real daughter. My mother froze. My older brother, Mark, froze. I froze. Mark, ever the man of action, immediately declared he was taking us all for DNA tests. My mother, her legs threatening to give out, fumbled for her phone to call my dad. "David, you need to come home. I think we have the wrong daughter." My father's reply was unnervingly calm. "I know." "What do you mean, you know?" "You're the one who told me to change her," he said, his voice matter-of-fact. "She was crying too much. You said she was giving you a headache, so I went and found one that didn't cry." A beat of stunned silence. Then my mother's shriek nearly shattered the windows. "I told you to change her diaper." I was halfway through a marketing proposal when my mother drifted into my home office, her expression weighed down with the gravity of a Shakespearean tragedy. "Chloe, I can't hide this from you any longer." I leaned back in my chair. "Here we go. The truth is," she continued, her voice trembling, "you're not our biological child. We've loved you as our own all these years, and the thought of sending you away, it's unbearable." She paused, waiting for my reaction. I just watched her, silent. "And now my other daughter, the one I never got to meet, she's here. Chloe, you have no idea. She looks exactly like me." Mom buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with manufactured sobs. "Now that she's back, I have no choice but to send you away. I hope you won't hate me." I slowly closed my laptop and held out my hand. "Give me your phone." She looked up, confused, but handed over her iPhone. I navigated to her Kindle app, opened her library, and long pressed on her 3 most recent reads: The Secret Heiress Returns, Switched at Birth, The Rancher's Daughter, My Cruel Billionaire, My Secret Baby. I deleted them from the device. "I thought you were still in the middle of the alpha's reluctant mate," I said dryly. "What happened? Did you get tired of the pack politics?" Mom's grief vanished, replaced by a flicker of guilt. "The updates were too slow," she mumbled. "I lost interest?" "Well, since you're busy, I'll just go." She scurried out of the room. "Close the door, please." As the door clicked shut, I heard her muttering to herself. So serious, so boring. Just like her father. Not an ounce of imagination. Who else has a mother who treats her Kindle Unlimited subscription like sacred scripture and tries to act out the plot twists? With a sigh, I reopened my laptop, trying to find my train of thought, but the door burst open again. This time it was my 4-year-old brother, Leo, his eyes wide with panic. "It's bad. They found out my real sister is here." Leo, my mother's most devoted and impressionable student, was the only one who would willingly play a part in her melodramas. His utter lack of cynicism made him the perfect accomplice. I gave him a flat look. "You're too late. I already called." "Didn't she tell you?" I leaned forward and pinched his soft, chubby cheek, summoning my most wicked smile. "Oh, Leo. Looks like you're not Mom's favorite little actor anymore. She found a new playmate." His lower lip trembled. "No, Chloe, I'm for real. There's a girl downstairs and she says you're not Mom and Dad's real daughter, she is." His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "And Mom saw her and just collapsed on the floor. You have to come see." When I got downstairs, the girl was curled into my mother's arms, delivering a heart-wrenching monologue. "Mom, I finally found you," she wept. "You have no idea what my life has been like." She gestured vaguely at her arms. Beatings were normal. I'd get new bruises before the old ones could even fade. Her voice cracked. "They hated me because I was a girl. After my brother was born, even breathing felt like a crime." My mother looked completely bewildered, her maternal instincts short-circuiting. She stared at the girl, then back at me, unable to get into character. "Congratulations, Mom," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Your dream came true." I gestured at the girl. "And wow, she really is your spitting image. We can probably skip the DNA test." "Chloe, honey, come help me up. My legs feel like jelly," Mom pleaded, reaching a hand toward me. But the girl was faster. With practiced swiftness, she was on her feet, supporting Mom's arm. "I've got you, Mom." Call your father, Mom instructed, her voice shaky. Tell him to get home now. I will, the girl chirped. Then she paused, her face falling into a mask of tragic beauty as she looked at me. Chloe, would it be okay if I had Dad's phone number? My little brother, who had been hiding behind my legs, muttered under his breath, she's so extra. Mom must love her. It's over for you. He tugged at the hem of my sweater. Hey, if you have to leave, can you take me with you? I choose your side. My dad, David, was summoned home from the office. Mark canceled a business trip and raced back. Compared to my mother's flustered panic, my dad was an island of calm. All right, everyone, settle down, he said, surveying the scene. I know all about this. Every head in the room swiveled toward him. You know? We all asked in unison. My dad gave my mom a cryptic look. You know too. In fact, this was your decision. Have you really forgotten? Mom blinked. My decision? Yes. You remember? You complained our daughter was crying too much, keeping you up all night. You told me to change her, so I did. I picked one that was quiet. Mark swallowed hard. Mom? You really said that? Her face went blank as she searched her memory. A moment later, realization dawned and she let out a wail. I told you to change her diaper. Well, the mystery was solved. It was now abundantly clear that I wasn't their biological child. As for the girl, Leah, there was an 80% chance she was right. Her face was a perfect replica of my mom's college photos. Hard to argue with that. Once the new reality settled in, Leah began her encore performance. She dropped to her knees on the Persian rug, tears streaming down her face like a tragic heroine in a movie. Dad, Mom, please don't blame Chloe, she pleaded. She's been living my life, enjoying everything that should have been mine for 20 years. But none of it was her fault. Please don't throw her out. I don't have to be your daughter. I don't even have to live here. Just let me stay as a housekeeper. I'll cook and clean for you every day, just so I can be near you. That's all I want. My dad, who has always taken things with a crippling literalness, nodded thoughtfully. I see. Well, we have a storage room in the basement. It's small but easy to clean. You could stay. As for the housekeeper duties, I'll text you our family's schedule and a list of responsibilities. Leah's face went pale. She shot a desperate help me look at my mother. Mom jabbed my dad in the ribs. David, shut up. I'll deal with you later. I started to head upstairs to pack a bag, but Mom stopped me, her eyes now filled with genuine tears. Where are you going? It's not like our house isn't big enough. You can't leave. You don't even know where your biological parents are. She's right, Chloe. You can't go back to them, Leah exclaimed, grabbing my arm with theatrical desperation. I can't let you suffer the way I did. My adoptive parents, they're monsters. Just pretend you're not their child. Promise me you'll never contact them. But later, when no one else was around, the mask dropped. Leah cornered me in the hallway, her eyes burning with hatred. Why are you still here? Don't you get it? This isn't your home anymore. Her voice was a low hiss. You've been a parasite for 20 years, living a life that wasn't yours. Isn't that enough? I'll leave after the DNA test results come back, I said, trying to push past her. I didn't want to engage, but she was relentless, a constant buzzing presence at my side. She shadowed me around the house, poking and prodding with passive-aggressive comments, trying to needle me into leaving on my own. It was exhausting. Her little acts were endless. When a package from Net-a-Porter arrived for me, she sighed dramatically. Wow, Chloe, you have such amazing taste. That coat must have cost a fortune. I wouldn't even know. I haven't bought new clothes in years. My mother, her heartstrings thoroughly plucked, immediately took Leah on a shopping spree. Leah returned everything the next day without even trying it on. She presented the refunded money to my mother with teary eyes. Mom, Dad, you work too hard for your money. I don't need anything. Just being with you is all the happiness I need. To demonstrate her frugality, she insisted on saving the leftover chicken carcass from dinner to make soup for us the next morning. Then came the staircase incident. She cornered me on the landing, her voice a low taunt. The moment she heard my mother's footsteps, she grabbed my hand, placed it on her own shoulder, and theatrically threw herself down the last few steps. "Chloe! Why did you push me?" she shrieked, clutching her ankle. "I know you hate me for coming back and stealing Mom and Dad's attention, but I'm innocent in all of this. I just wanted my family, is that so wrong?" I was too tired to even argue. I just turned to go back to my room. "Stop right there." My mother's voice was sharp. "You come back here and apologize to Leah this instant." I turned. Her face was flushed with anger. "I feed you. I clothe you. I've raised you for 20 years, even after finding out you're not my daughter. I didn't throw you out. Don't you have a single shred of gratitude?" She raged. "I did not let you stay here so you could bully Leah. This is unacceptable. You will give her a sincere apology right now, or I swear I'll kick you out of this house myself." Leah, propped up on the bottom step, shot me a triumphant smirk over Mom's shoulder. Her eyes danced with excitement. I sighed. It was beyond ridiculous. "Mom," I said, my voice flat, "Leah is new here, so she might not know. But you live here. Are you forgetting the entire house is wired with security cameras? Shall we go review the footage?" Mom slapped her forehead. "Oh, right. I forgot." She turned to the now pale Leah and patted her arm consolingly. "Don't worry, sweetie. It's okay. We'll just try a different scene next time, and maybe a new character. This clumsy victim thing isn't really working for me, to be honest." Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I much preferred that fragile, broke flower persona you had when you first arrived. That was much more my style." Her stage director tone seemed to horrify Leah more than anything. "Mom, what are you saying?" Leah stammered. "Are you suggesting I was faking it? That I was trying to frame Chloe?" No, that's not what I meant at all," Mom backpedaled quickly. "Then why didn't you stop me? You knew there were cameras, but you let me make a fool of myself. What am I to you people? A clown in your private circus?" Her righteous, screeching questions left my mother utterly baffled. "So, should I have meant it or not?" Mom asked cautiously, trying to read Leah's expression for the correct answer. That was the final straw. Leah completely broke down, sobbing hysterically as she ran to her room. Mom watched her go, then turned to me with a frown. "This is exhausting. She's no fun at all. Clumsy, terrible at acting. David should just forge the DNA results and we can send her back." "My thoughts exactly," I said. "You and Dad really were made for each other." And speak of the devil, my father walked in. Family meeting. Everyone in the living room. "No way," Mark called as he came down the stairs. "Are the results in?" Mark reached the bottom step 2 at a time. "Here must, Ty ask you." Dad didn't bother with theatrics. He set a manila envelope on the coffee table like it was a grocery list and not the grenade it was. "I had the lab rush a preliminary swab," he said. "Chain of custody intact. Paper copies for Mom." He looked at her. "And for Kindle Girl, a PDF." Mom straightened as if cued by an invisible director. "Read it," she whispered. Mark slid the papers out and scanned. His face didn't change, but the way his shoulders sank told me enough. The thing we'd all been pretending to be suspended above, like a chandelier on a rotting rope, had finally thudded to the floor. He cleared his throat. Maternity, 99.999% match to Iris Grant. He looked at Mom, who blinked. Paternity, 99.999% match to David Grant. He turned the page. For Chloe. He looked up, eyes finding mine. "You're theirs." Silence opened like a door into a dark room. Leah swallowed. "What about me?" Her voice was small, but it was the kind of small that tried on innocence like a dress and stood very still so you wouldn't see the seams. Mark flipped a second sheet. No genetic relationship to either David or Iris at a level consistent with parent-child. Extended kinship markers, none significant. He tapped the bottom line. Recommendation, not related. Mom's hand, still looped through Leah's, twitched. Leah's smile, half pinned, half welded, shivered and fell. She did not cry. She did something I respected more, she recalculated. "The nurse," she said softly, eyes glossing with a memory that may or may not have existed. She told me when I turned 18 that I'd been switched. She said she always knew, she'd carried the guilt for years. Her voice caught. She said Chloe got my life. Dad's face folded into that patient expression he wears for tax audits and broken dishwashers. "What's the nurse's name?" he asked. She didn't want to be identified, Leah said, recovering enough to aim for tragic again. "She's dying." She wanted to set things right before she. Of course, Mom breathed, fully back in the play, eyes flooding. Of course she's dying. The martyr nurse. God, the layers. Mark shot me a look. It said, "You hearing what I'm hearing?" I was hearing the shuffle of pages from a book, the riffling of tropes. It sounded like cheap paper. Dad settled onto the armchair, elbows on his knees. "Leah," he said, very gently, "who first contacted you?" She blinked. "What?" "This story didn't hatch in your skull fully feathered. Someone found you, or you found someone. Was it online?" His gaze was steady, not accusatory. "Iris posts in a lot of groups." Mom bristled. "Excuse you, I post in curated communities." "Goodreads Mom Mafia isn't curated," Mark muttered. "It absolutely is," Mom said, but softly. I watched Leah's throat move. Her eyes cut right and left, fish in a bowl looking for the plastic castle. "Bathroom," she said, and stood. "Doors there," Mark said. His smile wasn't nice. She floated down the hall, bare feet silent. I counted to 20 in my head and then to 40 because I know what bathrooms are for. Besides bathrooms, they are for phones. Mark gave it 50 before he nodded at Dad. Dad nodded back, and I was suddenly grateful that for all his literalism, he had built a life with redundancies. He'd moved us into a house with a single staircase when Leo started climbing things. He wired the doors when Mom started losing keys. He had installed, after a particularly pernicious streak of door dashers, a lock on the window above the downstairs toilet. Leah came back after 2 full minutes looking composed. She even smiled. "I'll go," she said. "I don't want to cause trouble." Mark's eyebrows shot up. That was quick. After dinner, Mom blurted, which was very on brand. "We need time." Dad rubbed his jaw. "We also need some answers." Leah's mouth tightened. "What more do you need?" "You have the test." Then her eyes glinted. "Can I have a copy?" Mark's smile turned wolfish. "Sure." He slid the second page back into the envelope and tucked the envelope neatly under the coffee table book about Scandinavian chairs. "After we talk." Leah's gaze flicked toward the hallway, toward the bathroom that did not offer its secret exit. She swallowed again. Leo crawled onto the couch and into my lap without asking because in his head he is still small enough to be airlifted. He pressed his cheek to my shoulder and whispered, "Do we get cake for family meetings?" "If we survive, yes," I whispered back. "Chloe," Dad said. "Your account of what's happened over the last 48 hours. Report time." I gave it clean, the entrance, the monologues, the fragile act, the chicken carcass, the stairs. Mark kept pace with my words, typing on his phone, his thumbs staccato. Every now and then his face would pinch and smooth, the way it does when he's reading corporate litigation. Leah watched me with a face that didn't move, which is the hardest kind to read. When I finished, she inhaled like she could pull a different story into her lungs and exhale it into the room. "My adoptive parents are dangerous," she said, voice pitched low, sincere. "I can't go back." Dad didn't flinch. "Name. Address. We can arrange protection through the proper channels." "I don't want police," she said quickly. "Of course you don't," Mark murmured. Mom clutched a throw pillow, her security prop, woven texture and tassels, and blinked rapidly. "If the test says Chloe is mine, then why do you look like me?" she asked Leah, almost pleading. "You look exactly like me at 20. Leah moved like someone who had rehearsed the movement. She went to the bookshelf, plucked down a photo album, flipped to the 3rd page and set it open in front of Mom. "Because," she said, "fate. It wanted you to find me. See?" She tapped a photo of Mom with bangs and an expression that might have been mischief or might have been sun in her eyes. Mom looked between them, the girl's face, the girl she used to be. She wavered. Or, Mark said, because someone has been studying your face online for months. And practicing your expressions. Leah's head turned. Excuse me? He held up his phone. Chloe sent me a link this afternoon. Mom, remember that summer you discovered you could scan the old photo albums with your phone? And that autumn you learned how to upload? Your public Facebook has 58 albums labeled things like college, the Bangs era and Iris being Iris. You never locked your privacy. I did, Mom protested weakly. You locked it last month. For a week. Then you needed to share book club pictures and you unlocked it. He looked at Leah. 3 months ago a new Goodreads account followed Mom's reviews and then followed every one of Mom's friends. Account name, Real Daughter 86. He flicked his screen, scrolling. Joined a Switched at Birth IRL forum on a message board that, shockingly, appears to be run by a woman who sells reunion coaching for a flat fee of $399, with an upsell for crisis scripts. Mom paled. Crisis scripts? He thumbed another screenshot. Module 4, The Fragile Flower, Leveraging Frugality and Self-Sacrifice to Elicit Care from High-Conflict Mothers. It suggests things like saving chicken carcasses, refusing new clothes, crying at the phrase our money. Leah's breath hitched, but she kept her chin high. So I prepared. Does that make me a liar? No, I said. The lying made you a liar. Mom sank back, the pillow clutched to her ribs. I feel violated, she said weakly, which was rich, given the number of times she had tried to cast me in something against my will. But this was different. This wasn't a family sport. This was outside. This was a stranger walking in as if she'd measured the house and knew where the creaky step was. Dad steepled his fingers. Leah, he said, who was the coach? Leah pressed her lips together for 3 full beats, the kind that stretch, that make you hear your own blood. Then, Ray, she whispered. Her name is Ray. Short for Rachel? Leah stared. Dad shrugged. It's a common move. Mark was already typing. Ray Tomlinson. Ray Spivak. Ray, He tilted his phone to show Dad. R.A. Emmings? Runs a site out of a P.O. box in Nevada. Takes sell and crypto. Testimonial photos are stock. He looked up. And she's been banned from at least 2 platforms for selling what amounts to social engineering kits. Leah flinched as if he'd thrown something. It's not like that, she said, too quick. She helps people. Some of us, her voice wobbled craftily, some of us really were switched. What was I supposed to do? I had no money. No proof. Just a feeling. It's truly incredible how often feelings purchase coaching packages with discount codes, I said. Mom shot me a look. Don't be unkind. Kindness isn't the absence of boundaries, I said. It's the presence of them. I felt Leo's fingers knit in the fabric at my hip. He wasn't following, but he didn't have to. He only needed the weather report, storm, clearing, storm again. Dad stood and went to the kitchen desk, which is where we keep office supplies like paper clips, and the emergency checkbook and, in Dad's case, the truth. He returned with a small black pouch. Inside was a backup, another set of swabs and a prepaid overnight envelope with a lab address. We'll do a second test, he said. Saliva, hair root, buccal cell. Different lab. Independent courier. His gaze cut to Leah. For everyone's peace of mind. I don't consent, Leah said. You consented to moving into my wife's lap, Dad said mildly. You consented to boiling a carcass. Mark winced. Dad. Dad sighed. We can't compel, he said. But refusing will have its own implications, especially if you intend to pursue legal action or public claims. We're trying to land this plane without fire. Fine, Leah said finally. I'll do it. But you'll see. Tests can be wrong. Or switched. She shot a pointed look at Dad, as if the old change her joke had been a confession. He didn't rise to it. He simply opened the pouch and set the cotton buds on the table like straws. We swabbed, sealed, signed. Dad wrote the tracking number on a sticky note and stuck it to his own palm. Iris, he said, no posting. Mom looked injured. I wouldn't. He looked harder. No posting. She hugged the pillow. Fine. Dinner was leftovers, which felt like a joke the universe couldn't resist. Leah tried to help and Dad politely redirected her toward a chair. She sat, stiff, ankles crossed, hands placed just so on her knees. She had the stillness of someone who thinks if she doesn't move, the camera can't see her. After we ate in that clattery quiet families use when they're performing normal, Mark went to his car for something he'd called research snacks and returned with his laptop. He projected his screen to the TV. It's not just Ray, he said, and clicked through slide after slide, fast and careful. There were Reddit screenshots, quasi-academic PDFs with titles like Attachment Injury and the Parasocial Mother, a thread from a forum where women traded scripts like recipes. Phrases ricocheted: practice your tremble, lean into domestic competence, if she's a reader, frame it in literary destiny. One recommended using the word jelly instead of weak for legs. It tested as both childlike and vivid. Mom pointed at that one. She said jelly, she whispered. I looked at Leah, who did not look away. She didn't look at Mom, or Dad, or me. She looked at the surface of the glass coffee table. Her reflection looked back, thin as oil. When the show ended, Dad turned off the TV and turned on the lamps. The light shifted from interrogation to evening. Here's what happens next, he said. You can stay tonight, Leah. In the guest room. The door locks from the inside. You won't be harmed. In the morning, we'll have coffee. We'll talk about what you need that is legal and safe. He lifted a hand when she opened her mouth. I will not be extorted by feeling. I will not be dragged by narrative. He glanced at Mom, then at me. I will also not allow my family to be eaten by a story. Leah's throat worked. She nodded. She went upstairs with an overnight bag Mom had pressed into her hands, moving like a bride walking down a wrong aisle. Leo pinballed between rooms until he fell asleep on my shoulder, the way children do when the world is loud. They roll themselves into the quiet of you. At 10 I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, and sat on the hallway floor. Mark slid down the wall beside me and exhaled. You okay? He asked. I thought about that. I don't know yet. He nodded. Fair. Mom's going to blame herself for a week, I said. Then she's going to blame Ray forever. She can blame Ray and update her privacy settings. We were quiet. I could hear Dad downstairs rinsing plates and Mom telling him he was doing it wrong and Dad telling her the plates did not accept direction. The house felt like itself again, ridiculous, familiar. Chloe? Mark said after a while. Do you want me to stay tonight? I leaned my head on his shoulder. Yeah. He bumped my temple with his. Okay. The lab texted Dad the next afternoon with the eager formality of a courier who knows his package is news. He gathered us in the kitchen because the living room felt contaminated. Same result, he said. Chloe is our kid. Leah is a stranger. Mom's chin crumpled. She went to Leah and took her hand because hope, for some people, is a muscle that keeps contracting long after the oxygen is gone. We can still help you, she said. We can find your parents. I don't want them, Leah said. Then, softer, they won't want me. Then we find you a safe place, Dad said. A real one. Leah's eyes shone, and for once I couldn't tell if it was performance or person. Maybe it didn't matter. If the wound is real and the method is not, do you treat the method or the wound? We'll call a social worker I know from the youth center, Dad said. He already had his phone out. Strictly voluntary. She will not force you anywhere. She will, however, insist on ID and a legitimate history, which means no more scripts. Leah flinched, but she nodded. Okay. And Ray, Mark said. We also need to file reports. Leah hesitated. She'll find out. That's the point, he said. Leah looked at me. It was a strange look, almost as if she was tired of looking at everyone else. Do you hate me? She asked. I took a breath, found the honest thing, which is not the same as the nice thing. I don't, I said. I don't like what you did. I don't like how much you liked it. I held her eyes. But hating you would mean carrying you. I'm not carrying you. Something unclenched in her shoulders at that. Okay, she whispered. Boundaries, Mom said shakily, as if she'd learned a new word and felt it in her mouth like candy. Yeah, I said. Boundaries? In the end, it took 3 days to fold Leah into a program that felt like a place she could stand without trying to steal floorboards from other houses. She provided a legal name that matched the local shelter intake from last winter, the social worker, a sinewy woman in a denim jacket with smile lines and a spine like a line level, checked it and nodded. Ray received a staccato burst of reports from us and, I suspected, a few dozen other families who had named their bruises since Mark's slideshow. By the end of the week her site was gone, the P.O. box closed. But the internet sheds skin and grows new, and we all know how stories mold. I saved the screenshots anyway. On the 4th morning, when the house was ours again, Mom hovered in the doorway of my office. She looked smaller, the way people do when they aren't performing for a balcony. I'm sorry, she said. I swiveled. She wrung the hem of her shirt like a wet rag and tried to smile. I thought I wanted more story. I thought that would make me less bored. Less, she gestured at the middle distance, less this. And did it? For a minute. She grimaced. Then it made everything loud. We looked at each other for a long time without speaking, like we were trying to hear the quiet come back between us. I made an appointment, she said suddenly, almost defensively. With a hairdresser? Please say bangs. Chloe. Kidding. With a therapist, she said. Then, like someone admitting to cheating on a diet, and I deleted Goodreads. My eyebrows rose. All of Goodreads? She wavered. I archived. Is that deletion? It's hairline deletion. I locked Facebook, she added quickly. Dad's voice drifted from the hallway. I locked Facebook, he said. Twice. Mom rolled her eyes. He did. He also labeled the cabinets. She lifted a hand and pointed toward the kitchen. In case plates forget. We had an incident last month where the bowls chose to be cups, Dad called. Anarchy isn't a style. Mom smiled despite herself. Then she sobered. I am sorry, she said again. For believing her over you. For liking the movie in my head more than the person in front of me. I nodded. Thank you. She studied my face. Do you want to leave? She asked in a small voice. Find your space? I'd been thinking about it. Not because Leah had oozed into my room like fog, but because there are times, even in the safest houses, when you need to hear your own footsteps and decide if you like the sound. Yeah, I said. Not because of you. Because of me. Mom's eyes flooded and held. Okay, she breathed. Okay. Then, fiercely, you'll come for Sunday dinner. Maybe. You'll come for Leo's school play. Obviously. We grinned at each other, shaky, and I thought, maybe the way to have less story is to say the plain thing and do the next right piece of laundry. Finding a place didn't take long. The old carriage house 2 blocks over had a sloped roof and a lemon tree in a clay pot and a window that faced east so the mornings came in honest. The landlord, a woman in a sweater with holes at both elbows, liked that I fixed other people's typos for a living. You'll catch mine, she said dourly, and handed me the keys. I moved on a Tuesday, because apparently Tuesdays are for girls who might be you and for the you who decides what that means. Mark hauled boxes and made fun of my succulents. Dad labeled my breaker panel with a zeal that suggested it would change our blood types. Mom brought a lasagna and a stack of white dish towels tied with twine like a Pinterest hostage. Leo padded through my tiny rooms like a noble inspecting a cottage. It smells like lemons, he pronounced. And new. It does, I said. He climbed onto my futon and pinged the mattress with both palms. This can be my boat, he decided. When the floor is lava, you can hold the rope. Deal. He flopped back, satisfied. Is Leah gone forever? The question knocked me back a step with how fast it came and how straight. Kids have a way of skipping the scenic route. She's not here, I said. She's somewhere getting help. I tucked a curl behind his ear. We don't do forever. We do for now. For now, he echoed sagely, and looked out the window like a sailor charting weather. On Thursday I went back to work properly for the first time since the diaper debacle. My inbox had the feral smell of something that had lived too long unsupervised, But the work steadied me, words in, words out. In the afternoon I went for a walk to reset my head and found myself, without meaning to, at the youth center, where the social worker with the denim jacket was standing outside on her phone. She glanced up, nodded at me, and ended the call. "Chloe," she said. "You survived." "I did," I said. "How's?" "Complicated," she said, and gave me a look that was both kind and informationless. "But she's safe." And she gave me those screenshots. The corner of her mouth tipped. "Tell your brother he did my job for me for free. He'll send an invoice. Tell him I'm union-proof." She tilted her head. "You okay?" It was everyone's question and it was fine. It was a kind of brick you hand each other to build the day. "Yeah," I said. "Mostly." She nodded. "That's reasonable." I liked that. I liked reasonable in my mouth. It didn't crack a tooth. When I got home, the lemon tree had dropped 2 yellow ovals like coins. I picked them up and thought about sisters, how we tell stories about belonging by blood because it's easier than the hard work of belonging by choice. I set the lemons on the kitchen table and texted Mom a picture. She responded with 36 lemon emojis and then, no posts. I laughed out loud. That night I dreamed that I sat at a long table with women who all had my eyes and none of my name. We passed bowls of soup and nobody pretended the soup was anything but bones and water and salt. In the dream, when I finished, I stood and left and nobody grabbed my sleeve or asked for a phone number to my father. I woke before the bill. It would be neat to tell you everything folded into itself like a shirt and went on a shelf. It didn't. Mom relapsed twice, once into a Facebook group that traded conspiracy theories about hospital bans, once into a true stories only fanfic forum that was neither true nor only. Each time she slipped, she came to me with eyes chagrined and mouth stubborn and asked me to sit with her while she deleted the tabs. The second time we installed a content blocker and named it Gatekeeper. She liked typing the password out loud like a pledge. Dad started bringing home hobby kits from the hardware store and built the ugliest birdhouse I've ever seen. He painted it a defiant, lemon peel yellow and nailed it to the fence as if daring flight to collapse. When I teased him, he said, "Everything that stands does so on ugly joints," and I wrote it down in my phone because sometimes Dad says things that read like the inside of a Stoic's wallet. Mark found a lawyer who specialized in online fraud and her hair was the color of revenge. She collected statements and filed reports and sat with Leah in a fluorescent lit room and listened without dramatics. Later, Mark told me the lawyer had said, "There's a market for story. There's an economy. We need to tax it with truth." I wrote that down too and underlined it. Leah called me once, 2 months out. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for Dad. She said, "I'm in a group," and I said, "A good one?" And she said, "Mostly." Then she said, "I thought you would hate me," and I said, "I thought you would make me," and we were quiet for a long time. Before she hung up she said, "Like an offering, my real name is Nell." It wasn't the name in the intake, or the one on the reports. It might have been true for that minute. I said, "Hi, Nell," and she cried one clean tear I could hear. On a Sunday in late spring we held a rebirth day, because Mom needed one more ritual to funnel all the unspent drama, and because Leo wanted cake and because candles do something to a room that speeches can't. Mom baked a lopsided lemon cake with rind grated into the frosting, and Dad put exactly 21 candles on top, because he'd miscounted my years and refused to change the arithmetic. "Precision is a kindness," he said. "Not always," I said, and pointed to the frosting. He added an extra candle dead center and declared it the margin of error. We lit them and the house smelled like sugar and tiny fires. "Speech," Mom insisted, bouncing in place. "I don't give speeches," I said. "You make speeches in your head all the time," she said. "Let us borrow one." So I looked at the people who had found me and lost me and found me again while standing very still. I cleared my throat. "Once upon a Tuesday," I said, which made Mom clap before she realized it and made Dad smile into his hands. "A girl came into our house and told us a book about ourselves. And we believed her, for a minute, because she knew the words. But the thing is, I looked at Leo, who was holding his breath to see if he got mentioned. We're more than words on a page. We're bowls that sometimes choose to be cups. We're ugly birdhouses that still get birds. We're lasagna when we should be salad. We're weird. I shrugged. And I like us like that. Mom sniffled so hard the candles tilted. Dad re-straightened the margin of error. Too weird, Mark said, and held up his fork. Too weird, we echoed, and blew. Wax ran, fire died, and smoke stitched the air with a new story: sugar, lemon, breath. I cut the cake into imperfect squares and handed them out to imperfect people in hours. Ours was the taste in my mouth. Later, after the plates were rinsed wrong and dried right, after Leo fell asleep with frosting on his chin and Dad wrote forks on the fork drawer just in case they rebelled, Mom found me on the back step, where the night was a soft thing and the birdhouse looked like a joke that kept its punchline to itself. "Thank you," she said, for the 1000th time, but it sounded different, as if thank you had been sanded down to gratitude. "For what?" "For not leaving me in a story," she said. "For making me come out here." I looped my arm through hers. "I didn't make you," I said. "I just held the door." She sighed, leaned her head on my shoulder like she used to when I was short and she was tall. "Do you want to know something I haven't posted?" "Miracle." She laughed. "When you were a baby, you cried. A lot." She paused. "I used to walk the hallway with you at night and tell you you didn't have to apologize for existing. I don't know why I said that. Maybe I needed to hear it. Maybe you did." She swallowed. "I forgot it later. I remembered it this week." The memory hit me in the chest like a quiet thing. It's strange how the first stories were told, the ones before the words had edges, can bend the shape of your insides. I didn't know if the scene happened the way she said, or if she'd refined it in the telling, but I believed the heat in it. I believed the hallway. I believed the voice. "I don't apologize for existing," I said. "Good," she said fiercely. "Never do." A car went by and the night drafted in behind it. In the upstairs window, Leo rolled and threw an arm out like a swimmer. Somewhere a bird considered the house and declined. The lemon tree, smug and pretty, pretended it had always lived here and had always been loved. When Mom went inside, I stayed. I took out my phone and opened a new note and typed a memo to the me I might be when the next Tuesday comes. When a story knocks, look through the peephole. If it looks like a person, open the door. If it looks like a script, recycle it. If you don't know, put on the kettle. Tea makes liars talk too much and truth comes slow. Remember, you are not an audition. You are a room. I stared at the last line until it warmed and cooled and stayed. Then I slid the phone back into my pocket and stood and went inside, because even rooms need sleeping. Behind me, the birdhouse squared its ugly shoulders against the dark. It would take a while before anything nested there. That was okay. Not everything had to be immediate. Not everything had to be a twist. And if, years from now, a knock came, a girl at the door, a face like mine, I knew what I would do. I would open the door enough to be polite and not enough to let in weather. I would say, "Hi." I would ask her name. I would say mine. If she started to cry in a practice way, I would hand her a tissue and not a childhood. If she needed help, I would give her a number and not my father. I would not apologize for existing. I would not audition. But tonight, I washed my one lemon-scented bowl and set it in its drawer where it could pretend to be a plate if it wanted. I turned off the light. I crossed a small room in a small house that fit me on purpose. In the dark, with a window open a crack, I listened to the sound of a family next door misloading a dishwasher and laughing about it, and I decided I could sleep to that. I decided I wanted to. I decided. On the kitchen table, the lemons did what lemons do. They waited to be turned into something, patient as truth, bright as boundaries, sour and sweet in hours.